Hi everyone. So today we're going to talk about using Excel and using SASJMP in our statistical practices. So the first thing I want to do is just go through how to enter data into an Excel workbook and how to save that data for transfer into SASJMP. So the first thing we want to do at the very top row is to enter in each one of our categories. So the first thing I'm going to do is enter in observation. And let's say for this example, I have 40 observations. So in order to fill that down, I just type in the first three numbers and highlight them all and pull it down by the corner. So that gives me 40 observations. My second heading I want to look at is gender. So I have data on, for example, say 20 males and 20 females. Okay. The next heading that I know is age. I know the age of each one of my individuals. So just to save a little time, I'm going to use an Excel formula that's random between. So I can look at, fill in any number with randomly between 18, let's say, and 65. So each one of my individuals was between 18 and 65. And that just gives me a random number. Now, of course, when you're doing your experiments, you'll have actual ages. So you'll want to fill each one of these numbers in by hand. Let's say also that I wanted to look at whether or not that individual was a smoker, and that would just be a yes or no question. I asked if they had active lifestyles, and that's again a yes or no question. I took their blood pressure and also their body mass index, their BMI. So these are my headings. I do have all of this data entered into another spreadsheet. So I'm not going to take your time by going through and entering all of this extra data in. So let me just close out of this. So now we still have our original headings. We have observation, gender, age, smoker, active lifestyle, blood pressure, and body mass index. So what's our total number of observations? We talked about this in the last video. Well, it's 40. We have 40 observations. Replicates will vary depending on the types of questions we ask because although we have all of these headings, all of this different data, we won't necessarily use all of these in one test. We could use two of these categories in tests or one of these categories in tests. It's really variable. So let's talk about how to save our data sheet in Excel so that it's easy to import it into SASJMP. Well, we save as, and I'll save this as HSTA practice. But we want to make sure to save it as an XLS file, not XLSX. So XLS is the only one that will transfer over into JMP. All right, so I'm saving that. All right, now I can close this out because what I'm going to do next is open SASJMP. All right, and I have these extra windows that pop up. I don't need those. What I really need is this JMP starter window. And I'm going to open a data table because I can import it from another file, from an Excel file. So I'll open data table and I'll find my my spreadsheet from Excel. And I want to use the Excel labels as headings. So I'm going to keep that, and we can keep Excel Wizard also. Now what pops up is new. This hasn't been in previous versions of JMP, but this is basically just showing you the basic setup of your data sheet. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say import. All right. And this gives me exactly what I need in SASJMP. I have all of my columns, all of the variables: observation, gender, age, smoker, yes or no, active lifestyle, blood pressure, body mass index. So what you'll notice in SASJMP is that you have these little symbols on each side of the columns. So this is really important. A continuous data type has a little triangle shape. A nominal data type has what looks like a histogram or a bar graph. So let's go through these really quickly and kind of use some of the information we had in our last video. Observations we don't really need to worry about because that's just saying that this one row is one individual we looked at. But let's talk about gender. Is that a continuous or a nominal data type? It's nominal, right? So we need to make sure that we have this little red histogram. And if you click on that red histogram, you can see that it's labeled as nominal. Age, of course, is a continuous data type, and we see that we have it labeled as continuous by the blue triangle. Smoker, yes or no. The yes or no makes it a nominal data type. They can either be a smoker or a non-smoker. And we see that we have the red histogram, so that's good. Same with active lifestyle, yes or no. We see when we click on that red bar graph, that red histogram, it's labeled as nominal. And blood pressure and body mass index are both continuous variables because they can take on any value between two specified numbers. So we have them labeled as continuous, as you can see over here. So that's good. Now let's say that you want to change a column heading. So for example, say I don't like BMI. I want to know exactly what it means without having that shorthand. All I have to do is double click on the column header. So again, just go up here in the blue and double click, and I can change this column name to body mass index. You can also change the type of data you're looking at through this column header technique, but it's easier just to do it over on the far left. So I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to say OK. So I have body mass index. Now, say for example, I've taken many observations and I have a lot of data, but some of it is not super important to what I want to ask, the question I want to ask. So for example, say I want to look at only males and not females. So I need to exclude some of these columns. And I can do that easily by highlighting all the rows. Exclude some of the rows. And I can do that by highlighting all of the rows that are female. And I can go up to rows. And I can do exclude, unexclude, hide, unhide. But what I like to do is push hide and exclude. And you'll see that it's excluded these rows of data, and it's also hiding them, so we won't see any data points in the results. So that's an easy way to hide and not see, just not work with some parts of your data. All right, but I'm going to undo that, right? Well, I guess I'll have to highlight those and click that again. So now all my data is showing again. Okay, so that's just the basic setup in the data part of SASJMP. But let's talk now about some of the platforms that we're going to use quite a bit in our analyses. So by platform, I mean under analysis, we're going to use fit Y by X, fit model, and in table, we're going to use summary quite a bit. So let's start with table summary. What this does is bring up a window that we're going to use to get some information. So let's say that I wanted to know how blood pressure, the mean blood pressure between the two genders. In order to do that, I'm going to select my nominal data type gender, and I'm going to pull it down under group because I want to group these statistics by gender. All right, I want to look at the mean blood pressure per gender. So I'm going to just click blood pressure, don't drag it anywhere. Go to the statistics drop-down menu and click mean. And you can see that that's going to give me the mean blood pressure. Now you can do this for all kinds of things: the total number of individuals per group, standard deviation, the lowest blood pressure, the highest blood pressure, the range, sum, a lot of different statistics you can look at, but we want to look at mean. So then I click OK. And what I see is there are 20 females, which we knew, 20 males, which we knew, and we see that the mean blood pressure is higher in females than it is in males. Now, this is not an actual statistical test. This is just giving us some information that we wanted to know, but we don't know if these two numbers are actually significantly different from one another. We'll get into that later when we talk about how to do statistical tests. All right, another platform we're going to be using is Analyze Fit Y by X. And what this does, it lets you take your different variables on this left-hand side, and it lets you add them into a independent variable, your X factor, or your Y response variable, your dependent variable. So let's just say again we want to look at gender as our X, so we just click on gender and drag it over to this window, and we want to look at blood pressure, which is our independent variable. Well, we would just drag that over into the response, because we're trying to see how blood pressure varies with gender. So this is one of the platforms we'll use. I'm not going to run this test because we'll talk about this later on, but just become acquainted with this, this platform. Another one we'll use is Fit Model. So this is very similar to Fit Y by X, except you'll see down here we have a window called Construct Model Effects. Well, that's just basically saying put your independent variables in here. I think the furthest we're going to go in these videos is a two-way ANOVA, so I'll show you how to do that within this window. But for the example we've been doing, we would do the same thing. Drag gender down here because this is the box for our independent variables, and then drag blood pressure into our Y window, which is our dependent variable window. And again, I'm not going to run this test because we'll talk about that in the future, but just play around with the Fit Model, the Fit Y by X, and the table summary platforms to get a bit more acquainted with them before we go on further. Thank you so much.